Okay, now that we have seen the plan, let's see the schedule. I will show you an example of mine, but like I mentioned on the previous video, this is the format I follow, but it's not the only one that there is. You can find many other examples online if you wish to. Now, my schedule looks pretty simple. I mean, it's just this. But I do like this because I don't like spending too much time on it. I'd rather have a simple one than just, make it really pretty and complicated and spend too much time, I always have the 80-20 mindset. But anyway, like with the plan, I want to have something that makes sense and will guide me through the development process, but does not take hours to make. I probably, like I said, spend 10 to 15 minutes to finish both the plan and the schedule. Make it quick, but big but do not just quickly fill them in without thinking. Each app is different and each app will take different amount of times to be programmed and designed, as well as optimized. So you need to be able to identify where to allocate the times best. It will save you time later on. But do it efficiently. Don't waste too much time on this. Alright, anyway, let's just go through the schedule. Like we saw on the schedule, here on Tuesday, I will decide on the target audience and theme. So, that will be finalized, and I will start thinking about the gameplay and try to get some app ideas. On Wednesday, then I will decide on the gameplay and finalize the app ideas and fill in the pre-development form. On Thursday, this is when it starts to get interesting. By the way, this is scheduled for an app that is not reskin. Let's go through it and then I'll tell you where it would be a bit different with a reskin. So anyway, I contact the designer and explain the theme, the app idea, and the target audience to the designer. I give the designer 3 days to complete the job. But this part is important. I have to explain the theme, the idea, and the target audience. If the designer, I shouldn't keep any secrets. The more the designer knows, the better. He needs to know exactly what I want. I don't want him to improvise and do things that he thinks will work because I'm the one that does all the ASO research. But I do want him to know my thinking behind it, and I want him to know who he's making an app for. So after I give the designer a timeline, I check on the same day. I check on the designer's progress after 2 hours, and then 3 hours after that. I contact the programmer and explain the theme. So I also contact the programmer on the same day and explain again the theme, the app idea, the target audience, and the gameplay. He needs to know the gameplay because obviously, he's the programmer. I give the programmer 3 days to complete a good prototype and 1 day to add in all the graphics. Right? So this when we saw the plan, it was the first one that I showed you that it had 3 days on the design and 4 days for the programming. The first 3 days for programming, he's just gonna have to do all the code, everything behind, all the gameplay and everything, apart from the graphics. On the last day, the designer is just gonna give him all the graphics, and he just needs to incorporate them. So he needs to have the app ready for that, and he needs to know that that's the plan. I also check on the programmer's progress after 2 hours and then 3 hours after that. I start thinking about audio and just looking for it a bit. And I also start researching the App Store. Now, all of these, it looks like a lot, but it probably takes, 20 minutes, half an hour? 10, 15 minutes talking to each of them, and that's it. And then I have to check on their progress. It just takes 5 minutes, a 5-minute Skype call, and that's it. Now, on Friday, I also check on the designer's progress and the programmer's progress on 3-hour intervals. I find all the audio for the app, and I research competition in the App Store. I also research ASO methods and start working on the description. Again, on Saturday, I check on the progress of both programmer and designer. I give the programmer all the graphics, art, and audio because the designer should finish today. I explain what the final design must look like to the programmer now that I have all the graphics. I explain the app should be done by tomorrow. He needs to know that, but he would have already known that anyway because I told him earlier on. I also research the competition and the App Store in the App Store a little bit more. I do some ASO methods on the research, and I keep working on the description. Then on Sunday, the next week, I finalize the description, and then the next day I just choose the keywords and I upload the app. These days, it's just personal preference. They are, finalizing the description is probably just like 1 hour, or less, half an hour, depends how much I did on Saturday. But that's because Sunday, I like having a little bit of Sunday off, and also I worked back then at the restaurant on Sundays. So yeah, I just gave myself a little bit more free time. And the same with Monday. I have a pretty full-on day at uni, so I just didn't do much on that day. But also, I want to say two things. One is that with a reskin, in here, all of these, contacting the programmer, explaining all of those things, I probably should contact the programmer a lot and designer when it's a reskin, maybe even 2 hours in 2 hour intervals instead of 3, or even 1.5 hours, because I want this done quickly. I need it done within a day because it's just a reskin. So I need to pressure them a bit more. So the only difference is that all this part would be a lot shorter. All of these would probably be in like 1 day or something. The second thing I wanted to talk about is that I usually start thinking, I usually merge these schedules and the plans of different apps. So, when I am here researching ASO methods and I'm kind of working on the description and all of these, I'm already maybe deciding on the target audience and theme of my next app, or I'm already thinking about the gameplay of the next app. This is why these 2 days are also quite short, because I can just start thinking about all of these things. And if not, when I finalize the description, maybe I'm already contacting the designer with the next app idea. And so, by merging things like that and having a schedule, you can just put all of these things together and you just see all of the time, you can see where you're spending your time well, and you can see where you are wasting time, where you have free time, and where you can just optimize basically how you work a lot better. And all right, well, that's it for how I do the plan and schedule. I think I did ramble on for a little bit there, but hopefully you guys kept up. I think it's really important. I really do think it's important to understand this and have a good schedule and a good plan. So yeah, do try to put some effort into it, or at least try to take it seriously. But now the next section is one of my favorites, because we will start looking into how to outsource design, code, and audio. And trust me, outsourcing is it's awesome.